to be this long, but life had other plans for me. At the beginning of September, I got sick. Not the dramatic kind of sick. Well, at the beginning, it was quite dramatic, but it turned into the slow, drag you down kind that makes you realize you've been running on fumes for way too long. And the truth is, part of why I got sick was everything I've been holding on to. Stress, anxiety, grief, sadness, loss, all of it piling up until my body finally said, enough. Part of my recovery has been realizing that mental and physical health are not separate things. They're tangled up together and you can't fix one without paying attention to the other. I've started grief counseling recently. After losing my mom and a couple others close to me in the last year and a half, it finally felt like time to face it head on and with help. I've only had one session so far, but it felt like a start. We talked about how grief doesn't really end, it just changes. My counselor suggested journaling again and maybe exploring somatic therapy, which is more about how the body holds on to emotion. She also encouraged me to think about doing something for closure, just for me since we haven't even had a service for my mom yet, for various reasons which I won't get into right now. It's strange how small suggestions like that can stick. I haven't implemented anything yet, but it gave me permission to start thinking about what healing might look like instead of just avoiding it. And then there's grief reiki. That's something different, but it felt connected. It's quiet and calm, more like energy work than talk. I've only gone once, but it helped me get out of my head and back into my body. It's not about fixing anything, just letting some of the heaviness move through. Even after those first sessions, I can feel a little bit of lightness. Not constant, but enough to notice. So back to being sick. While I was recovering, I spent a lot of time in my big fancy recliner. You know the kind, theater style, cup holders. It feels like a command chair for napping. My diet was limited. I was tired all the time from being sick. And honestly, I didn't have much energy to do more than binge TV shows, catch up on some YouTubers I like, and play cozy games. The kind where nothing terrible happens, just soft colors and small wins. And it was fine, I needed that. But after a few weeks, I started to miss creating things and doing things. So I started journaling a little bit again on my Kindle Scribe. So it's handwritten, not typed. It felt awkward at first, physically, because I hadn't written or drawn much by hand at all. My fingers were out of practice, but it felt good. I felt like my brain was stretching in the right direction again. I've only done it a few times since, but every time I do, I remember why I like it. It slows me down and makes me listen to myself. And then I did what I always do when I need to reset. I rearranged my space, or some of my space. I live in a small place. My office and bedroom are the same room. So space really matters. When it's cluttered, my brain feels cluttered. I used an online website called Floor Plan Creator to play around with layouts. I spent half a day moving virtual furniture on my laptop, and the next day I just went for it. I moved the desk, shifted the shelves, wrestled with the bed, sweated way more than I expected, and by the end of it, the space worked again. And I love that. I like small spaces. They're cozy, but I think at some point I might look for a place where I can separate out my office again, a space where work and rest don't have to share the same walls. Still, this version works for now. It's my little creative lab. And I think that was a turning point, not just for the room, but for me too. Because while I was sick, I kept thinking about this podcast and about my work in general, and about how I show up in the world. I worried I'd lost my rhythm, that people would forget that stepping away meant I disappeared. And that's a scary thought when you've been in tech for a while. There's this quiet hum of fear that if you slow down, you'll be replaced. But then a few things happened. A couple of people reached out to thank me for something I'd helped them with. And that was a bit of tech advice, some encouragement, and one of those random, hey, I used what you taught me messages really brought me joy. And it reminded me, I'm not gone, I have value. The work I've done ripples out even when I'm not shouting it online. That realization, it calmed me down and made me realize that slowing down doesn't mean fading out. Sometimes it just means recalibrating. And that's where I am now. I've been thinking about what I want Debugging Midlife to be. When I started, I wanted it to be a space for mid-career folks in tech, especially the ones who feel like they've been around long enough to see the cycles repeat over and over and over again, but that still love learning new things. That's still true, but I've realized I like talking about more than just tech. If you've read my blog, you know exactly what I'm talking about. One week it's about ADHD and communication. The next it's hybrid agile or change management. And then I'm off writing about Ada Lovelace or why cursive handwriting still matters. It's not random. It's all connected. It's about curiosity. And it's about all these pieces of life and how they fit together when you zoom out a little. And speaking of projects, I'm also redesigning my website, heathermaga.com, to get it back online so the blog is easier to find again. And it's updated. I miss having that space where everything lives together. I'm also dusting off my retro dev studio projects, rebuilding my framework and CMS, experimenting with some ideas I've had on the shelf for far too long. And on the creative side, I'm planning my homemade Christmas gifts for this year. I try a different medium every year. Last year it was one thing. This year it's probably going to be clay. And I also skipped Inktober this month, but maybe I'll do an Inktober in November instead. Why not? Creativity doesn't need a calendar. All of that, the website, the dev work, the handmade projects, it's helping me reconnect with what I love about building things. It's not about code or content, it's about creating something with care. That's what brings me to Sender. Curiosity, creativity, and a sense of purpose that doesn't depend on hustle. So, if you've been feeling off course, if you've been tired or questioning your direction, you're not alone. Sometimes our bodies force us to stop so our minds can catch up. Sometimes it takes losing things to realize what we love. And that's at any point in your career or no matter what your age. I'm still figuring things out, still healing, but I'm also excited again. Excited to write, to record, to share ideas that make me think and hopefully make you think as well. There's still so much to talk about. Tools, projects, creativity, grief, motivation, all the little intersections that make tech feel human. And that's what the next stretch of Debugging Midlife will be. Probably. Less polished, more honest, less trying to prove something, more sharing what I know and what I'm still learning. So yeah, I'm back. A little bruised, a little humbled, but centered. I really thank you for waiting for me and thanks for listening. I'm really glad to be here. But before I wrap up, I just want to take a moment for some gratitude as well. A gratitude for my family, especially one of my aunts who showed up for me through all of this. She helped me with rides, checked in, and even looked after my cats when I couldn't. For the rest of my family, too, who made sure I never felt forgotten, even when I wasn't doing great. Gratitude for my friends and colleagues who reached out and reminded me that I still have value and I'm still part of something bigger. And super gratitude for my 2 cats who have been my little constants through everything. They have no idea how grounding they are just being near me. And also gratitude for you, whoever is listening right now. Thank you for being here and pressing play and for making space for a voice like mine. If something in this episode resonated with you, or if you have ideas or stories you want to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can always connect with me through my website, heathermaga.com, or reach out on Substack, where the newsletter and podcast live together. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you'll get new episodes as they drop. That kind of quiet support, those little moments of connection, are what keep me showing up.